everybody, welcome back to Love Notions channel. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am Natita from Soul Natural Dane, and I am coming in today to share with you a couple versions of the Oakley vest. But first, let's talk about the site-wide sale, 40% off. October 2nd through October 6th. It is not a stacked discount, so you can go ahead and put your items in the cart. It includes patterns, it includes courses. However, it does not include the Largo Cargo, which just dropped previously the week before. So make sure that you take advantage of the site-wide sale. And today I'm going to share with you what I've done with the Oakley vest. This is a new garment for me to be sewing up for myself, stepping a little bit outside the box for me, but not really, because I live in Texas. And so while maybe in previous years ago, I may have sewn up coats and different things of that nature, for down here in Texas, a really nice vest will do you for some cooler days, as long as you have on something underneath that can help keep you warm, and it just adds a nice layering piece to whatever that you are styling for that day. And so today I will be sharing with you my review of the pattern. This is my first time making it up. I'm super excited to share with you the changes that I have made, and a couple little things that I have done. And I have these two versions I'm going to share with you today. So first, let's jump into the pattern review. All right, so I have my notes, so I'm going to be looking down at my notes. Now, the sizes go from an extra small up to a 5X. You have 3 different views, and you also have a full bust option, which, spoiler alert, that is what I did. You do have a curved hem. You do have a hood option. And so, yeah, absolutely love it. And the thing I love best about it up front, it's a quick sew. It really is. Unless you do what I did, then it might take you a little bit longer, but that's okay. That's what we're about. Trying different things, stepping outside the box a little bit with our makes. And so, yeah. So as far as the instructions, because I focused on view B. So view B, and I'll make sure the line drawing is popped up here. It is the collar with the pockets on the front, and it's bias binding around the arm side, the front, and the hem. So that is the version that I did. But as you can tell, view A, if you want to do something like a faux fur or something like that, or maybe a sequin, I'll pop up some inspiration photos as well. If you want to do something like that, or something, maybe you do want to do the version that I did and do something like a more of a puffer coat, maybe add a little bit more dimension to it, that would be something to do. And then of course view C, the final version, is the hooded version. As far as the sizing, like I said, it goes up to a 5X with the full bust option. And what is that? So I am going to read to you the finished garment measurements. It starts out at an XS, which is an extra small, and it goes, which starts at a standard bust of 36 inches, a full bust of 38 inches, and then it goes up to a 5X. And the 5X and the standard bust is 58.5 inches, and a full bust of 60.5 inches. So depending on the type of wearing ease you want, if you plan to zip it up. So for me, I don't ever plan to zip this up. That's just not particularly my style. So for me, I stuck with a size that I knew that it can hang open like this, and not necessarily close, because that's what I was looking for. So you want to make sure you take that into consideration. The size that I made, I started at a extra large at the shoulders, and then I graded out to a 2X all the way down through the hip. So that is the sizing that I did, and the little adjustment that I made for the version that I have on. And I actually did it for both versions here, and we'll get into the details a little bit. But so far as the instructions, very easy instructions to follow. You shouldn't have any issues or anything. There is a video embedded if you have a separating zipper that you want to add in, and you're wondering how to add the separating zipper on the front. There is a video embedded in there for that. You don't need a lot of fabric. Even the larger size that you get, I would say, it says here for up to a 5X, you need 1 1/8 yard. If you do the hood, you need an additional 1/2 yard. Excuse me. And so I would say I would say do 1.5 yards if you intend to use the fabric that you are, your fashion fabric, as bias binding. That's what I did. So I just say get a little extra if you decide you want to play around with your fabric a little bit, maybe do some different design elements to it. Highly suggest just get a little extra. I would definitely 55 to 60 inch wide fabric is the width of fabric that you definitely want to stick with as well. And so there were no tricky bits for me for this particular pattern. It's really easy. You only have 4 pattern pieces for view B. You have the front, you have the back, which is cut on the fold, you have the collar, and then you have the patch pockets. If you decide not to do the patch pockets, you don't have to. If you decide not to do the patch pockets, then that's one less piece that you will have to worry about, but super easy. Let me jump into what I did for the 2 that I have made. So as you can tell, I have on, this one is a patchwork denim. This patchwork denim actually came from Joann Fabrics. Where I can for fabric, I will link it in the description box below for both of these vests. I will link those down in the description box if I can find them down below. But as you can tell, this was already patchwork. The difference I did was line this particular one, and let me take it off so I can show you a little bit of the details. So I really wanted to have some fun with this, and I decided to do a little quilting on mine. So there is batting in between the lining as well as the outside. I did bind all of the arm side and the bottom as well as the top. I did do binding in 2 different types of binding. That was just how I wanted to add just a little bit more contrast to my final garment. I did add the this is a polyester satin binding that I did around the arm side, and I did regular cotton binding around the bottom, which is in a darker blue here that you can see. And I actually did that in the same blue around the pockets, because you do bind the pockets and put those on the front as well. However, for my collar, I had a lighter blue that I wanted to have a contrast with. So that's what I decided to do, was bind all of the collar, and I also bound the neckline where you attach the collar to the back, which that is in the instructions. So that is what I decided to do. So if you have never done quilting on a garment, I'm just going to share with you how I did it. I'm sure my quilters might have, you know, better ways to do it, but let's have some fun. Pull out a garment and just give it a try. But I'm going to drop in here just a snippet of what I did and how I interline this vest.
Okay, so make sure your batting is laid out nice and flat. Take your lining piece, make sure the right side is facing up, because that is the side that's going to be facing you or inside of the garment. Go ahead and pin all around the edges, being sure to continue to smooth out the piece as you go, because it can get a little slippery. And then once you have everything pinned, go ahead and cut. I'm using a rotary cutter, and if you can tell, I'm cutting about 1/2 inch outside of the pattern piece, because there will be some shrinkage once this is all cut, and then you will sew.
Okay, so I have all of my pieces cut out here. I did not measure the distance of any of my lines or anything like that. I just kind of eyeballed it, and for the most part they do line up. And this is the front, here is my back, here is my collar. For my collar piece, I only went vertically here, and then for the pockets I did do across, up and down across, like I did for the back and the front. So that is it. I am just going to do a rough cut around all of these pieces, and then I will interline these pieces to the main fabric piece, and I will show you what that looks like after I have done that. So when it comes to interlining, as you can tell, this is my inside piece, the lining piece that I have quilted, and it's now laid flat. So you will grab your main front piece, and what you will do is you have to lay them right sides together. So grab, obviously this is the right side, and then this is the wrong side. I'm sorry, wrong sides together is what you will do. So just make sure everything is laid out nicely. Everything is even as you can get them to the edges, because all you're gonna do is make sure everything is nice and neat. All you're gonna do is make sure you pin. So just stitch. I am going to stitch as close to the edge as possible, probably 1/4 of an inch all the way around the entire, just to hold the two pieces together. So interlining just makes it one piece, and then I will sew the entire garment up per the instructions. I will be using bias binding because the instructions call to serge these edges, and then you press them open. I'm just going to put bias binding all around my edges here, and once the pieces are together down at the bottom, hem per the instructions. But just these interline piece, after I stitch the side seams and up here at the top, I am definitely binding everything, so at the top and here, and finish on per instructions. Okay, so how fun was that? And like I said, it will take you a little bit longer. On average, I would say this vest will probably take you an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. You're just taking your time and everything like that, because you have your arm side with the binding. You want to make sure everything meets. But because I did quilt mine and I interlined it, the fashion fabric and the lining together, and kind of took my time doing that, it did take me about 3 hours, and partly because I was also recording as well, but it went together beautifully. Absolutely love it, and this is perfect for fall. Like I said, for me, transitioning in Texas from fall to winter, this is absolutely perfect. It's not extremely heavy. I cannot tell you the weight of the batting that I use, so that could be, you know, something that you want to make sure that you pay attention to, the thickness of your batting. Mine was not very thick. It was something that I had in my stash that I've used for a couple quilts that I have made, and so that's what I use. One of the things I will mention is, make sure, if I did not mention this, make sure when you are cutting out your lining, if you decide to do some quilting like I did, your lining and your batting should be cut about, I would say, 1/2 inch wider than the pattern piece, because once you start quilting and putting those pieces together, it does shrink that piece up a little bit. And so I did notice that on, I think, my pocket, and then I remembered to remember to on the rest of the pieces, make sure everything was cut out the right way. But so keep that in mind. So if you are going to do any type of quilting and adding batting, you have to make sure you add extra, the cut around the pattern, about 1/2 inch extra, just to account for that shrinkage. And then once you interline it, then all your pieces should match up beautifully. But this is the inside. I absolutely love it. I completely use binding on everything. So my seams on the inside, if you can tell, that is I did bind my seams on the inside, my side seams. Everything is bound completely clean. Even my shoulder seams I bound up here at the top, as you can see here, and on the inside as well, completely bound. It's such an easy pattern. I would say my suggestion is, if you want to try quilting a garment, interlining, putting it together kind of how I'm showing you, start with something simple. Start with the Oakley. It's very easy to do, and it kind of gets you into the groove of how quilting a garment may go and putting everything together. I was not particular about my lines on the inside, if they met. For the most part they do. That wasn't on purpose, trust me. I just did basic quilt lines on the inside, and even for my collar I just did straight lines all the way across. And so yeah, so don't overthink it, but it's something fun, a fun little detail that you can add to your project. And if you are a person that has zippers, so you can buy a separating zipper from Joann's, from your handbag places, anywhere like that, online, Etsy, different places like that. But if you are like me and have a ton of continuous tape, which is in these drawers back here, ton of continuous tape, what you can do is add a zipper stop. And because the length of the video is kind of long, you can head over to my YouTube channel and I will share how to create a zipper stop, a separate zipper stop. So as you can tell at the bottom here, there is a stop at the bottom. Continuous tape does not come like this, as we know. And then at the top, I added the stoppers as well. So I will share that technique and how I did that over on my channel. So go ahead and head over there and you can check that out. But absolutely love it. Love this version. This will get a lot of wear because it's in denim, and I can pretty much wear it with anything. I should have been popping up video pictures of how I styled it in this. And so yeah, this is a good one. Now let me share with you the little bit more dressier version that I made, and a little something new that I tried, definitely new to me. Okay, so this is my second version. Super proud of this. I am so proud of this. I am so proud of this. So same thing, I won't go over it in detail, but I did interline it. This lining fabric, the lining in the denim came from Joann Fabrics, and actually the lining in this particular vest came from Joann Fabrics as well. Beautiful, and I thought it was just a beautiful contrast to this deep wine. This fabric, absolutely gorgeous to work with. This is, if you can, I'll hold it up so you can see it. This is called a cotton tweed. A cotton tweed. And that's why I say you can dress up your Oakley, just dress it up. You can do sequin, anything, but I decided to do it in a cotton tweed. I had never heard of cotton tweed before, wasn't sure how it was gonna be and act and sew and all of that. So I did learn a few things that I'll share with you. But the one thing that I wanted to do was add beading, and you'll see in the pictures that I'll pop up, I just wanted beading around the pocket, just a little detail, just a little bit, nothing overwhelming, because it was my first time beading a garment. And so I just wanted to know how it would hang on the garment, how it would cooperate, all of that good stuff. So that is the detail I added to this. I will also say, and I will pop up a clip on how I did the beading. Again, if you are a beater, embroiderer, you probably have a better technique, but I'm just sharing with you how I did this. It was so easy to do. And if you decide to add extra beading, just make sure you take into account the type of beads that you use, how many you have, different things of that nature. But I did want to share the inside of the garment. Again, I use binding on all of the seams. There are no exposed seams. So besides the arm size, the pattern asks for, also the shoulder seams, of course, the neckline, as you can tell, shoulder seams, everything is bound. Everything. And so for this, one of the things I will say, the cotton tweed behaved beautifully. It presses very well. However, because my goal was to use the tweed for, I bought a yarn and a half because I knew I wanted to use it to do binding with. And I did. There are some parts of the vest I did binding. Let me put this back on the hanger. There are parts that I did binding, but what I learned is, because this tweed, it does have a little bit of stretch in it. And the last I checked, Mood was out. I got this from Mood Fabrics. If I can link it, I will link it down below. Last I checked, they were out of it, or close to out, but I'll put it down in the description box. One of the things that you do, if you do decide to use a cotton tweed and you want to use self-binding of the cotton tweed, it gets super thick, really, really thick when you're folding things over. And it was a little tough to sew over. I did press it down, that helped, but I also had to use my walking foot as well. So yeah, it was a little tricky that way. And so one of the things I ended up doing was using different binding. So I used a combination of the fabric, the cotton tweed to bind, as well as some black satin polyester binding I already had in my stash. And that's what I did the inside with, is the and the arm side as well. That's the binding that I used. But on the front, I just use the binding, the fabric as binding. I created bias binding. I actually have quite a bit left, and I switched when I saw that it was just too thick to try to do binding out of, and then I just used the satin, the black, around the bottom. So that's what I did for binding. I did not bind the collar at all because I never intended to do that. This fabric is, when I say, is absolutely beautiful. I paired it in what I'm showing you, the Love Notions title dress. And so that is the dress that I am wearing. It's something you can wear out with lunch with friends. That's something I actually would wear to church, because we can dress casual at church. And so that is something that I will wear with some sandals. And I just think the beading just adds another dimension to the item, to this particular project, and it just looks beautiful. It just looks beautiful. I love it. Let me hold the beading up so you can kind of see. I spaced mine on purpose because I wasn't sure how, and actually I need to tighten this up, and that's one of the things I want to mention about the beading. I didn't know how the garment would react to the beads and the beads I wanted to use. And so this one I just have to tighten up, and I actually did have to tighten up a couple other ones that were just too loose. But what I did was, as you can tell from the inside, there is no hand stitching or anything from the inside of the garment where the pockets and the beading is, because obviously I didn't want those stitch lines on the inside. Once I put the pockets on the outer fabric, I beaded it at that time. And so now when I correct this beading, there's enough of a lip here where I can go underneath here and catch this bead and tighten it up, which again, it won't go through the lining fabric at all. And I'll show you how I did it based on before I put the lining fabric on top. I just simply went underneath, added, kind of laid out the beads how I wanted to look, and then just started beading from there, and just kind of took my time, and wanted to make sure everything was kind of spaced properly, because again, it was my first time beading. So not perfect at all, but I had so much fun with this, and this will also get a lot of wear because I purposely chose for both versions darker colors that I knew would interchange with other things that I would wear. And I know these will transition from fall to winter to spring. And so yeah, even summer, as long as it's not extremely hot. But yeah, these are, I absolutely love how they turned out. I'm actually wearing the Arlington in the pictures with the denim vest today, so something like the Arlington will go beautiful. Say you made the Arlington dress and then you had a vest to pop over it. So many options over on Love Notions. Make sure you take care and head over to the website. Take advantage of the sale, 40% off of everything except for the Largo Cargo, but grab you some dresses, some tops, pants, anything that you can pair your Oakley vest with. So if you have any questions, definitely leave them down in the comment section below. I will happy to answer them as best I can. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in to Love Notions. Have fun shopping the sale. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye.